Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to the weekly movie show with the boys Connor.
Hello.
And Benny.
Hi there.
Well guys, many apologies. Last week we missed the weekly show. Hey, that's a first for a while. We were busy watching Sydney Film Festival, which was a ton of fun. We saw 4 films. Connor, I think you saw a few less. But
I saw precisely half of that, actually.
I saw 5 films, so you were wrong on 2 counts, Georgie.
I try my best.
Completely inaccurate.
I try my best. But guys, at the end of this episode, we're going to be talking about those films and all the things we saw. So stick around for that. But before that, we've got news and trailers. We've got J.J. Abrams is nearing a mega deal with Warner Media. We've got a new, not so new Wonder Woman poster, but we're going to be talking about it. Dr. Sleep trailer, Astra trailer, tons of really good stuff. I'm glad we're back, guys. I missed you last week, even though I saw you many times during the week. I do love the weekly show because we get to catch up on all the news and whatnot. We also get to catch up on what everyone's been watching. Benny, why don't we kick things off because you and I have been watching a certain HBO miniseries.
Yep.
That is entitled
The Wonderful, the Only.
Oh, it's so good.
Chernobyl. Yes, we finally got around to catching up with the big zeitgeisty thing at the moment, post Game of Thrones with HBO, which is the miniseries Chernobyl. We watched it pretty much at the exact same pace as well.
Yeah, it was like, what episode are you up to? Episode 3? Oh, me too.
Have you guys finished it?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's only 5 hours long, so 5 episodes.
So it's basically the perfect kind of TV series for me. 1 season, 5 episodes. None of this 24 episode bullshit. Like nice quality over quantity.
And what quality it was.
I cannot tell you how impressed I am with this. I just had such... I can't say a good time because it's pretty dark subject matter, but unbelievably impressed. I think every facet of this production is on point. Casting, performances, the production design, even some of the CG work, the storytelling. It is just so on point. I can't really fault this show.
It's really beautifully told, and every episode is very distinct from one another. Like, you know the 5 chapters of this because they're very different. The first one just begins almost completely from the start with the explosion, and then the rest is just dealing with that. And the last episode is like a brilliant kind of wrap up
Full
of the whole
circle.
series. Yeah, it's so well done. One writer, I believe, who is responsible for several of the scary movies and superhero movie.
What clicked in his brain?
Winter's Wall.
Yeah, what
Winter's
clicked in
Wall.
his brain to decide? Hangover, no. Hangover 4, no. Chernobyl,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But unbelievably impressive, and I felt like they had a very good handle on the subject matter. I felt as though that it was whether it was or not, it felt historically accurate, and that's what I think is most impressive about this is it does feel like a faithful retelling. Certain people don't think it is.
Well, it hasn't
The Russians?
Russia
the
come
nation
out and
of
said
Russia.
that they're going to produce their own series where they lay the blame on America?
Yeah, essentially.
My question about this was that does it feel like anti-Russian?
No,
not at all.
And that's why I feel the historical accurate. It doesn't feel biased. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's trying to paint a slanted picture.
Okay.
And once again, maybe it is, but it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like they were twisting the knife in to the Soviet Union or making a comment there. It was just like, here's what happened, and that's it.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of another strength of this.
Absolutely. Every character in the whole thing is Russian. So all of your heroes and villains in the piece, they're all Russian. So it's not like directed at Russia, like they're the bad guys in this entirely.
And there's the guy with the American accent that's the hero or anything like that.
No, I mean, none of them have Russian accents, but yeah. And we were talking about this the other day, that it really doesn't feel like an anti kind of Soviet Union piece, like half of Hollywood movies.
Commies.
All of the villainous characters or the people who make mistakes, they all feel very human. Not like, oh, that's a Russian villain. Like that, they're just people. It feels allegorical to any other country as well.
You said that no one has Russian accents, though?
They're all British actors doing their natural accents.
Is it as ridiculous as Death of Stalin?
Well, that was a bit broader comedically.
There was a bit more eclectic as well in the
Yeah,
accents. I felt that this one was quite narrow.
Mm.
You know, some like Stellan kind of does his Stellan accent,
Yeah.
and everyone else is pretty much English.
Okay, yeah.
It didn't distract me at all.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so this is a high recommendation from my end.
Mm.
And
Very cool.
I felt like I wanted to watch it all over again
Mm.
by the final episode with that loop back.
Mm.
It's like, oh man, I can go rediscover this and watch it all over again from a new perspective.
Mm. If you're anything like me, maybe us, and know shockingly little about this actual event, which only really occurred to me as I started watching it, and was like, I'm amazed at how not curious I've been about the biggest fuck up in human history. Yeah, definitely check it out.
Yeah, 100%. Do you watch anything else, Benjamin?
Nope, that's it.
I'm going to quickly duck in there. I watched the new Adam Sandler movie on Netflix.
Yeah,
Jesus.
murder mystery.
Yeah. It's just kind of like an Adam Sandler film with game night with Hercule Poirot or
Because it's Kyle. I can't pronounce his last name, but he's the guy that does Game Night, or not Game Night. Workaholics.
Okay.
The director of Workaholics and that Netflix movie that they did.
Have you watched this, Connor?
No, but
Okay, good.
that is the one reason that I.
I'd be disappointed if the majority of people had watched
Yeah.
it.
The reason that I do want to check it
Disappointed
out
with
is
this podcast.
because I like I can't pronounce his last name. Kyle, the director. I like his stuff.
You like him so much, you just
Kyle.
call him Kyle.
Yeah. We're really buddy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I've sort of seen the highest level of filmmaking you can get with Chernobyl and then the lowest common denominator with this. But it's fun. You know, Adam Sandler. What I kind of like watching these movies from a bit of a meta angle in that I know that what I've been told is that Adam Sandler basically decides, okay, this year we're going to go here and we're going to take the whole crew, all these people, and we're going to go shoot a movie. And he's kind of like a giant holiday. And you can see it in this. It just feels like they're having fun. And, you know, I respect him for that. You know,
Yeah.
he's doing what he's doing.
It's brilliant. I wish we could do that.
You know, I respect that. So whilst the film is fine and there's definitely some funny moments in it, it's nothing great, but I do appreciate it from that level. So do with what you will. Murder mystery. Do with what you will. I don't know what that means. So Connor, take this away
Neither
from
do I. I
me.
was kind of waiting for
Take this away from me.
perhaps an explanation. No, you don't want to continue on with that.
No way.
So I watched a couple of things, but the one thing I do want to talk about was I started and finished Good Omens, which is the Amazon Prime series. Ben, I think you started this, but something that threw you off was the ultra high def, was it?
Yeah, the
So
HDR.
I don't have that problem. And
Shitty TV.
Well, I mean, clearly I just don't have that setting on. But so that didn't bother me. I thought from a visual standpoint, this looked pretty all right. I mean, it obviously looked ridiculous and schlocky in certain parts. You know, no one's going to win an Oscar for the visual effects on this, but I think that kind of added to the charm of this series. You know, it didn't ever feel as though that they were trying or that they were going beyond their means, really.
Yeah, no, I never had any problem with the production design from that standpoint.
Yeah. And so I think that from a visual standpoint, this is really cool. What I will say about this is that I think that both the leading cast members, so Michael Sheen and
David Tennant,
are so unbelievably watchable. And as the series progresses, watching their relationship, I guess, progress along with it is what really kept me going along with this series. I think that it's got that cool little hook to it, that it's wacky and it's adventurous and it's Terry Pratchett type thing, and so that is certainly an entertaining part of it, and it's a cool little hook. But the substance of it really is those two actors, and then just everything kind of all the supporting cast are really solid as well.
Yeah, John Hamm, Nick
John
Offerman,
Hamm.
Frances McDormand. It's pretty stacked.
Like seriously stacked. And I'm always a little bit surprised to see that John Hamm is still doing, kind of leading or no, sorry, not leading roles. Like he's happy to just kind of be the background guy in some of these, and it just adds a certain weight to some of the TV shows. Overall, I'd highly recommend this. I mean, if you can get that HD shit sorted out, then yeah, I think that this is well worth spending. I think it's 8 hours all in total.
Yeah, 6 episodes.
I think it's closer to 8.
It's just 6, right? Yeah.
6? Yeah, then fine. Then it's 6 then.
That's so interesting.
All right, Wikipedia.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, I am so I know exactly what episode I'm up to because 6 episodes to me, it's like this giant mountain.
Yeah.
It's like episode 1 I'll be here and episode 2 I'll be there. So it's funny that you're just watching it and you don't really keep count of the episodes. And
Connor watches 20 episodes of TV a day.
well,
They're
I know,
meaningless to
Connor,
him.
you're notorious for being able to plow through season upon season upon season.
Yeah, it really depends because I don't have a standard gauge on how long it's meant to be. Like you can have in that time you can watch what
Works
18
overtime.
episodes that are 20 minutes long. Some kind of half an hour TV style thing that's actually 20 minutes. You can pump through so many of those, and for a series, 20 minutes can feel like an hour, or if it's a really good hour, it can feel like 20 minutes. So
What you're saying is, despite only being 6 episodes long, it feels like 8.
Damn.
No, I have no gauge is what I mean.
Crushing review.
I just mean I have no gauge. I can never remember how many episodes are in a thing. I honestly can't remember how many are in Barry, and I just watched that.
What's Beery?
Barry?
What?
Barry.
Beery.
Barry. How do you say it?
It's
How do you say it like an
Barry,
Aussie?
mate.
Barry.
Barry.
That's Scottish.
Bazza.
That's
You said
Bazza.
Bazza.
So, Good Omens. Anything else on the televisual this week?
No. Just wanted to talk about the one.
Okay.
Stuck to the format.
Just the one.
Yep.
You didn't watch anything else, Connor?
No,
Yeah.
no
I
other
watched tons else,
media properties.
We had this discussion before we started that we're just going to stick to one and then move on. Some of us were able to do that.
No.
Others were.
Yeah, if you're going to give us some extra airtime, I might go through a few other things then. All right, let's get on to the news then.
Let's do it.
First up, big news just broke recently. J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot is nearing a mega deal with Warner Media. Under this new deal, Bad Robot will develop and create new projects for Warner and supervise other producers across film, TV, and digital platforms. This is kind of estimated to be about a $500 million meal.
Meal? Yeah, I mean, that's one word for
deal.
it.
Similar to the Lord and Miller kind of thing we had recently. Anything to say on this, Georgie?
Yeah, I mean, this is very interesting. I know from the report Warner was battling it out with Apple and Sony before ultimately...
AT&T as well.
Okay.
I believe.
So, JJ, he's a hot commodity. Bad Robot produced a number of pretty amazing films and properties.
He's good at the publicity. He's a strong brand as well.
Yeah, he's got the whole package. He's JJ's from that producer standpoint, so he's a producer who's become a director, and he just knows every facet of the filmmaking process, not just the end product. It's all about these other intangible areas around it. So, hey, this is really cool. Big news for Warner. They're launching their streaming service next year. So they need, I don't feel like Warner has enough clout, or not clout, but maybe the depth of properties to make it work, especially with the fact that they segmented the DC stuff off from Warner. I thought that was a very strange decision. Now knowing that they're doing a full-blown streaming platform,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they should probably consolidate it in there.
A lot of people are kind of speculating they will. 'cause
Right.
It wouldn't make sense not to. I mean, unless they're trying to get a little bit of double bubble whereby people purchase DC and the rest of Warner, the rest of that catalog. But
Well, they could.
What do they really have?
I mean, there could be some kind of value add there where you get this. If you're on DC, you get Warner for free and vice versa. But they definitely need some more heavy hitting brands under them to make that streaming service work.
Can I just mention? I said that they were battling it out with all those and AT&T. I should have. I just realized that AT&T actually owns Warner Media. So
Right.
There you go. I was wrong.
There we go.
It's like the
Checks
levels.
out
I
then.
can just I'm just imagining like just after the show, either one of us figuring out you idiot.
The comments.
Like, I'll
yeah,
just
it's
get
like
ahead
the
of that one, shall
table
I?
in John Wick 3 is like the layer upon the layer. Was that what it's called? Was it called the table?
The high table.
The high table. Yeah. There you see.
Not just a regular
There
table.
you go. Yeah, well, you know. As James Hetfield once said, I am the table.
Say.
Let's move on swiftly.
So next up, we have a new poster for Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah.
We don't comment on too many posters here, but this one is a bit extreme.
It's purdy.
It is very colorful.
I totally dug this.
Yeah,
on
Wonder
a number
Woman,
of levels,
Wonder Woman Ragnarok.
including the design of a new outfit. I
Yes.
think it looks so cool. I'm loving the silhouette, the more sort of corset design.
It very strongly resembles her armor from Kingdom Come, which is a very, very good, very famous DC Justice League comic. What bearing that would have on this story, I could not tell you because that's set in like a dystopian future. But cool design.
Does this not kind of strike you as a little similar to Aquaman's Get Up?
I can see what you mean with the gold texturing.
Yeah,
and
you
the-
couldn't
the
have them
sort
next
of-
to each other in the Justice League like that.
The sort of scaly effects she has on her legs there.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of jumped out to me initially was that this looked an awful lot like Aquaman. I hope that it wasn't their intention. I can't imagine it was.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this actually fits into the film. Is this something she acquires, or is she going to be kicking the movie straight off with this? And it's like, don't ask any questions. This is just a new outfit. You know, like Iron Man. He's got the next Mark 87, you know?
Yeah.
You just go with it.
This is just how she rocks it in the 80s.
Yeah.
Bit of a departure.
I mean, I guess the weird thing for me, I'm just trying to remember her outfit in the kind of in the original Wonder Woman or the movie Wonder Woman was kind of what we got in the Batman vs Superman. It was very similar. So it kind of seems as though it's weird to see that she's kind of gone back and forth from
Yeah.
from
Don't think
the
about it too
outfits.
much.
It was the 80s. Everyone made weird fashion choices
Yeah.
for a while, you know?
And then burnt that fashion choice
Yeah,
to the
for a
ground.
very specific
never
amount of
to
time.
be found again.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is magical in some way, like Thor's outfit. She can summon it or something.
Yeah, okay.
That would take a long time to put on otherwise.
But again, I'm not going to get into it.
So June 5th, 2020, has this piqued
Still so
anyone's
far away.
interest? Has this...
No.
I
No,
Connor, you and I liked the first one less than a lot of people, I think.
quite a bit less than a lot of people.
I think if you guys
Still
rewatched it, you would enjoy it more.
I
It would
have
just be that
rewatched it
third
since.
act.
I tried to
would-
rewatch it. I couldn't get through
Yeah.
it.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Well, that's my
look,
theory,
I still maintain the same criticisms that I had when I first watched it. It is, and I mean, it doesn't help that everyone jumps on the bandwagon of thinking it's like, the greatest thing ever, because it's not. I mean,
I think people are much more measured on it nowadays. Every single comment section I troll through is like, yeah, the end of that movie is worse than most bad comic book movies, but like the rest is quite solid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my sentiment towards it. Was the third act really undid a lot of the good work in the front half.
Hopefully they can make just one good movie this time. A whole good movie.
Yeah, we'll see.
Next year.
2020.
Yeah. Next up, I got some box office news. Dark Phoenix is set to lose 100 to 120 million after the worst opening in the X-Men series history.
yikes.
This is not surprising at all. This movie has had so many things running against it.
Yep.
The perceived lack of quality is a big one, obviously. It's been worse reviewed than every other movie in the series.
Which I think
amazingly.
is, anyone can go check out our review of it. I think it's a little bit unfair to say that this is the worst in the series. I don't think that.
Yeah,
that's the
definitely.
case
Look,
at all.
if you want a slightly more nuanced and less piling on review of that movie, check out ours. But just everything with the Disney deal, the buyout, it really doomed this movie.
Oh yeah, and I think I don't think that Apocalypse did it any favors. I don't think that the delays and the reshoots did it any favors. I mean, this movie kind of was, Dead Man Walking is kind of how I felt about it just from the get go. I mean, the marketing for it, at the very least, did not do any favors for it either. So,
No, they could have cut a way better trailer from that film, I reckon.
yeah, and not kind of done that whole relying on old footage from the last
That was desperate.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do.
that just felt weird. I was like, oh, maybe don't do that.
Yeah, so this is going to poison the well pretty hard for the MCU version of the X-Men, whatever they're planning with that. We definitely didn't think we were going to be seeing them pop up for 5 to 6 years anyway, with the next phase being pretty set out. But I don't know, do you think this is really detrimental to Feige and crew making these characters work?
If anything, it makes them look better.
Exactly, yeah, they can really spin that narrative of like, we're going to do it
it's
right
like,
now.
baby, they're home, they're in the nest egg. We know what to do with them. Fox never knew. They can really go down that pathway, or position it in a way where it's like, hey, this is where they're meant to be.
It's interesting because I really do agree that's the situation they're in. But with something like Fantastic Four, I think it's the opposite, which is Marvel wouldn't want to go near it because of that last one and the previous ones even. But
I mean, at least X-Men has the ability to look back at their movies and be like, hey, some of these are really good.
Yeah. I guess I find that interesting as well, just because it's like, I feel like the Fox X-Men movies don't get any credit for the stuff they did do well and really well as well.
It's amazing as well how much people don't respect and give it enough props to what those first two movies did for setting up a lot of the conventions that Marvel took and added a layer on top. But without those ones,
legitimizing comic book heroes,
like it
for a whole new
feels
generation.
real. It feels lived in. It feels like the real world. And everyone just shits on those first two. And I'm like, come on, man! Like, credit where credit is due.
I always really enjoyed those first two for outlining a world which was markedly different than the MCU. And I mean, it makes it sound as though that was a response to the MCU, but I mean, it laid the foundation for what would later come to be something that is in contrast to the MCU. And I always really appreciated that. I thought that was really cool. The original X-Men always dealt with that kind of thinly veiled references to racism and that. But I dug that.
Yeah, societal inequality. Like, it starts off and Jean Grey's in Congress giving a presentation to all these politicians, and it's like, wow, this is tangible. This is today. And slowly as the series has gone, it's gone its own course. But those first two, man, nobody gives them enough credit.
I think a big problem that this one had, which is only shared by probably the second most underperforming movie in the series, is that it's two really bad movies in a row for the X-Men.
And it was always a flip-flop, wasn't it?
Usually like a really good one, then a bad one, which I think would help push it through a little bit.
Yeah.
And the other one I'm referring to is Wolverine, which I think came right after X3, which did not do well in any regard and did not deserve to. But that's anyway, I guess it doesn't matter because this series is completely done one way or another.
And I think that's what a lot of people will think about it. It's like, it doesn't matter anyways.
It's inconsequential at this point.
Do you want to quickly just read out that quote from Simon Kinberg, the director? Because I think he has an interesting point.
Yeah, he's had a lot to say about this movie. He's
taken a lot of ownership.
He's been very frank, considering it's only a couple of weeks old already.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's just written this thing off. So he says, I always felt that we had a tough date for this particular movie. It wasn't made as a classic superhero movie. It was made as more of a dramatic, intimate, smaller film. Originally, it was going to come out in November. Then it was going to come out in Feb. And those were the dates that I felt like it would actually have been more appropriate to.
I completely agree with that.
Yes.
It doesn't have, and it didn't have that summer, like if you compare it to Apocalypse or even Days of Future Past, it's a much smaller film.
That starts out in space.
But like even the cast of characters, like even just going into space doesn't mean it's a bigger film.
I know.
Just a spectacle and whatnot.
But I do think that's, I mean, I agree that it's a tough date. I don't think that explains in the entirety as to why this didn't do well.
Totally.
Like, I don't think that if this
factor.
had come out in February, suddenly, this is going to be making money. I think that's probably a relatively small part of what made this film.
I would say completely, though. I think coming out so close to Endgame and being the other, superhero team, big budget movie, like it never had a leg to stand on in that battle.
And if you'd pumped it out earlier, you wouldn't have had that comparison as per se.
I mean, February, you're getting cut off by Captain Marvel.
March.
Captain
Marvel was
but
March.
that came out early March, didn't it?
So what do you say?
So if this came out, let's say mid-Feb, they would have had 2 weeks to go.
That's it. That's the testing ground.
I mean, it had
2
1
weeks.
week.
That's what you
it
want.
had 1 week this time. I mean, every week the past 6 weeks we've had a movie and a big movie. John Wick, Toy Story, Dark Phoenix, Men in Black.
Yeah, and on that note, we've been following this trend. Godzilla opened worst of its franchise, followed by X-Men worst of its franchise, and then Men in Black International has opened to 28.5 million and very poor reviews.
That's horrible.
It's the worst of all of them. Yeah, it has a lower budget than the previous two, 110 million. So, better on that front. But the first 3 Men in Black movies all opened to higher than 50 million. So that is really bad.
That is a nail in the coffin, kind of.
Yeah,
and we were talking about this off the pod. Was like, I've been seeing a lot of Men in Black marketing materials, pre-roll on YouTube, banner ads,
everywhere.
Facebook. Like
I was
they
going through
really,
Central today, and it's like there's a moment where how they do the automated things on the bus terminals,
the print media,
and like I don't know, 6 to 10 bus terminals suddenly like flipped over, and it was just Men in Black everywhere, and I was like, geez, like that made me feel embarrassed because like, no one's going to see this film.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you that you can't just blast ads and get people bums in seats.
Yeah.
You've got to be. People are sophisticated these days. Like the viewing audience is so across everything. You can't. You got to go.
Didn't you just watch
further.
an Adam Sandler film?
This is true.
On Netflix.
On Netflix. Okay, my bad.
The box office figures have aligned pretty closely with the critical consensus this year for this summer. I don't think that's a direct correlation 1-to-1. I think there's a lot of other factors for all of these movies, but that is interesting. I feel like every other year has had a real huge anomaly, like just a critical
something
bomb
that's made
done
money
really
that shouldn't
well.
have,
Yeah.
something that didn't make money that should have.
Yeah, like we haven't got BVS or a Suicide Squad so far this year. Which is nice. I would never normally say this, but I'm kind of glad that MIB International isn't really good, because then I would be so stressed out about how it's just like doing terribly and we'll never get another one.
Yeah.
I'd be so upset that no one's going to watch it.
I mean, while we're on the topic of box office, quick caveat. I looked at the Endgame total haul last night, and you actually sent I think a meme about it today, which was a bit crazy, but they are like $40 million off.
They're stalling so hard.
Avatar, and I was looking at the trends, and it every week has been a major hit. Like it's like you said, a big movie has been coming out every week for the last 4 or 5 weeks,
chipping away at
Endgame, and I'm like 40 million. That's not an awful lot, in the big scheme of things. Like it's just come on.
Yeah,
get
I just
there.
I cannot accept the possibility that Disney isn't just going to funnel $50 million into tickets for this movie. Like they cannot let this not become the highest grossing.
Just go everyone in your parks, everyone just give them comp tickets or something, go.
It won't contribute a lot to the box office.
Enjoy.
But
If you give away free tickets,
millions.
then you don't get money.
I feel as though they need to have some kind of follow-up release,
like a re-release.
That's what Avatar did. Avatar had the extended edition with like 6.5 minutes of extra footage. People head back to the cinema. You know what they should do? Listen up, Kevin Feige. You do a double whammy, double feature, Infinity War, Endgame.
Oh.
Boom.
No, I was going to say just do exactly what Avatar did. I mean, they would have so much extra footage for that.
It's not the MCU's MO. They never do they release in the
cinema. But
cinema
losing is not the MCU's MO either, and
they've set up a sandbox that they exist in, and they don't. Whatever comes out in the cinema, that is the version of the movie. There's no director's cut. There's no extended cut.
especially with this movie.
That's it.
But I mean, it doesn't mean that they can't change that. I mean, we were just talking about the other day that
that's just not their style.
Toy Story 4 is the first one to not have a short before the film, and that is definitely not Pixar's MO. That's not the sandbox that they play in. But they changed
a pretty good reason for it though, which was the like 20-minute Frozen short that people almost protested.
Hated, yeah. But that's because it's a 20-minute Frozen short. Like you don't have to be sadistic about it. Jesus.
I completely agree, George. I don't think they would do that. I also completely agree that if they did, I would rush into cinemas.
Yeah,
I would
that's my
buy a
point.
ticket.
I'd be happy.
All you need to do is a little bit of extra, and give all these blockbusters their time. Wait for like a 3-week slot. You put that out, I guarantee you it's blasting past Avatar.
100%. But it's not going to happen. So then I think the next best solution is to do a double feature. You know, that I would love to see Infinity War and Endgame back to back in the cinema.
Honestly, I'm surprised there hasn't been more word about that, because it is, you know, it's been so crafted as this kind of one chapter in its own right. That really would be, I reckon that would do some numbers.
Oh, that would be so killer, man. Yeah. Just a little 10, 20 minute intermission as well.
They'd have to sell the tickets separately though. They were going to contribute to Endgame's box office probably. Somehow. I know they'd have to figure out something weird there.
Yep. They certainly will. Well, we'll see.
Buy one expensive Endgame ticket and get an Infinity screening.
Beforehand. It's like it counts as the ads before the movie.
For free, yeah.
Next up, Suzanne Collins is writing a Hunger Games prequel novel with a film adaptation being developed alongside by Lionsgate. This has come out of the blue. This novel's set to debut next year, and apparently the movie's going to follow as fast behind as they can. It's going to be set during the 10th Hunger Games, so I think it's 60-something years before the movies we've seen already.
It's a smart move. Do them concurrently.
That's a smart move.
I think that's a smart move.
The prequel... I really don't think is. That was a series of diminishing returns. Creatively and financially in a big way.
But Mockingjay Part 2 didn't do well at all.
It did worse than the first movie.
I have not even seen the Mockingjay Part 2.
Oh, it's so bland.
It's annoying, because I did not like the first Hunger Games. I enjoyed the second one a lot.
Same.
The third one, Mockingjay Part 1, I really, really liked.
I was really interested by that one.
Very disappointing.
Yeah. I think I might have watched it on Netflix or something when it first came out on that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then, you know, there's obviously a lag before we got the second one. And by the time it got around to it, I was like, I'm just not invested enough in this franchise to really give a hoot.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a flash in the pan. It feels like it petered out before that fourth one even came out. I haven't heard anyone talk about Hunger Games in a long time.
Yeah, I guess the interesting part of this for me is more so the IP or like the packaging of how to put this together, because this is Lionsgate, correct? Yeah, Lionsgate, they need something bad, because once Mockingjay Part 2 came out, they sort of what else do we have?
Yeah, but that's what this stinks of. This stinks of totally a production company that's like, guys, we need a win.
100%.
Someone just pitched, let's do another fucking, Hunger Games.
But I think from a product development side of things, I find this very interesting, wherein you're working with the series creator, number one, and also writing and producing a novel at the same rate as the film. I remember Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass was doing this all those years ago, 2010, with Mark Millar writing the issues, and then the script was happening in parallel, and there were sort of changes that happened, and some things went this way, some things went that way.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World was the same situation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the movie has a different ending because it came out a couple volumes before the end of the comic.
Oh, for real? Anyway, I always just find that stuff interesting from just a project management kind of thing. So good luck to them, but I agree with you guys. This is probably diminishing returns. They're going to have to really... are people hungry for the Hunger Games? I'm not so sure.
I think we've got to end it there.
Boom.
That is good. But another update on Tarantino's Star Trek. We got a quote from him here. He says, "It's an R-rated movie. If I do it, it'll be R-rated. There's a script that exists for it now. I need to weigh in on it, but I haven't been able to do that yet." Sorry, Connor's cursor just jumped over the quote in the middle of it.
So is he not meant to be writing this, or is he just directing it, or what's the deal here?
He's not attached to direct.
He must just be shepherding it through or something.
Yeah, I guess. Clearly he wants to have a strong hand in it, whatever he does come into. But
so he hasn't written the script.
Evidently not.
I think it's unclear right now, but he could have maybe written the treatment and then handed it off to a script writer.
I believe that's what happened.
This seems very, I guess, counter to what Tarantino has previously done. He's really breaking his MO, because, he's always been about original IP, just kind of owning the creative process from beginning to end.
We did True Romance, and Tony Scott directed that. He also did From Dusk Till Dawn.
Natural Born Killers.
There's a few along the way that he collaborates, but on the whole, yeah, Tarantino's like an end-to-end writer director.
Yeah. This feels particularly because those all feel there's still all three of them are the originals. They're not based off anything.
I believe so. Yeah,
they're all original.
Yeah. This is an existing IP.
Which makes it extremely interesting.
Yeah, and that has struck me as interesting since the beginning of this. Just I want to know what his involvement is like. Will this come off as like a Tarantino film? Because I mean, his previous
Star Trek,
Dusk Till Dawn was Rodriguez, wasn't it? And they collaborate quite neatly together. Like that feels like a proper fit. Whereas, I don't know who's going to direct or write this, and I'm very curious to see how they will collaborate with Tarantino.
Yeah, those other three movies feel like they could fit in the existing Tarantino verse that all his movies supposedly coexist in. How he would potentially even try to fit a Star Trek movie into that would be very interesting. I hope when he says this is going to be R18, I'm assuming this is just responding to that very specific question, like, is it going to be R? Because that's what everyone wants to ask with a Tarantino movie.
Why does everyone care though? Like,
for that's me, what I'm saying.
It's very distinctive.
I hope what he's saying by saying yes, it will is.
This is my spin?
It will be, I will have the freedom to make it whatever I want it to be. Not like he's going to make a super profane Star Trek just because he's Tarantino and that's what he does.
Or like hyper-violent.
Yeah.
Like that's not what Star Trek's about.
Yeah.
But that's what Tarantino's about.
I know, but he has
to an extent, but
he has to mold himself around Star Trek.
Yeah, like I don't see any indication that he doesn't want to legitimately make a great Star Wars movie in the mold of Star Trek. Jesus. In the mold of Gene.
That's so similar. I get confused.
Gene Roddenberry's, vision for the series.
Yeah.
I hope this just means that he's making like, I don't know, like a smart sci-fi movie for adults. Like it's not going to be aimed at like a 4-quarter kind of thing.
It's going to be distinct from the JJ Star Treks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think that Tarantino would have a movie where he doesn't have his very distinctive fingerprint on it. And one of the most distinctive fingerprints of Tarantino is how violent and I guess over the top his films are. And I don't see any reason that he would make an exception for this film. And I mean, I agree with you. That's certainly not something that you would... That aspect of Star Trek isn't really kind of there in any iteration, I think.
There are some gruesome I remember when I was a kid, I found the Borg very troubling.
Not violent, though.
Not violence, but you can do some gruesome stuff. That
with the pin in the eye, that freaked me out for years.
You could push it into an MAM, if you wanted to. But then to get an R rating, I mean, this is an American R, so that would be an MA. Yeah? So, yeah, I guess maybe I was thinking about it as an R rating here. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But if this actually happens, I am unbelievably excited because this feels like one of those ones where it's wishful thinking that I'll ever see a Tarantino.
The script is going to get locked in a vault for some 50 years. It's never really going to get produced.
It just seems like one of those ones that'll never happen, and it shouldn't happen as well.
Yeah,
it definitely sounds like a Screen Rant April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
And finally, DC Universe has cancelled Swamp Thing after airing one episode. This was what I'd watched the last episode we did.
And you kind of liked it.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was very gnarly, pretty extreme body horror stuff in there, like very extreme for TV, very high production values. They clearly sunk a lot of money into it. And we already knew that because the first season order went down from, I think, 13 episodes to 10 mid-production. So there were clearly some financial issues with this show. There's a lot of kind of internet rumors about tax problems with this movie, like just clerical errors that resulted in them not getting the tax rebates from the state they were shooting in, Alabama or something, I think. Just a bunch of weird stuff that is not that interesting to get into, but just interesting conceptually, that someone just really fucked up and this series has to pay the price for it. But it's a shame because I really want to see where this is going. I assume they're going to release the rest of the season and I'll probably watch it. But
do you I'll put it this way, like why would a studio decide to put out that announcement so
One
early?
episode in, yeah.
Because you're basically undermining the rest of the series. Like everyone who potentially could get invested in Swamp Thing now knows, hey, there's nothing more coming, so why am I going to commit to this?
Yep, and it's not as if they planned it to be this short.
Yeah.
Like the season isn't even as long as the season was meant to be. It really reeks of like, I don't know, ownership changing hands and people just clearing house of stuff.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Fresh
maybe
start.
they know this DC Universe streaming
Yeah.
service is going down or something.
100%. That's probably exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just bums me out, man. Like, I'm not going to watch it, but do yourself a favor. You've got all these talent, creators, actors, people behind the scenes that have worked tirelessly on this. And maybe it's not the best thing since sliced bread, but just let it do its thing. And don't bring the emotions to it. Anyway, whatever. What can you do?
The emotions.
These things happen.
What time is it?
It's
Trailer
trailer time. Whoa.
Stepping on your toes, Georgie.
I know he always wants to. I'm not gonna make it.
Mate, I was the original trailer time.
you weren't.
I can go back to it if you'd like.
You were the original. You were doing it's changing.
Yeah,
Something
originally.
weird.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't the original.
Until a fan asked you to
fucking
stop.
tried to weasel your way in there. We had
Oh,
to.
that's right. Yeah,
had to
no,
chip
you
away
might-
for about 8 months there.
You might have a good point there. It all gets kind of
Yeah.
muddled up.
2 years
Um,
later, what is a podcast?
So we've got our first trailer, which is a sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep.
Wait,
I'm
Wait.
not going to allow you to make that joke.
what?
I'm just no.
Wait, what? What
You
film
say
is
that-
it a sequel to?
No,
This
bad
is the
George,
sequel
bad.
to The
What?
Shining?
I mean, you even said this, man. They're allowed to do that. It's like an iconic film.
Hmm.
It's a it's not like The Shining 2. I mean,
There are some points of interest here, though. The book by Stephen King is a sequel to his version of The Shining, which is vastly different from Stanley Kubrick's film version of The Shining.
Yeah.
This is clearly trying to retrofit itself as a
both.
sequel to both, essentially. We don't. I haven't read either book. I don't know what the content's really going to be in this movie in regards to the Stephen King book, which, from what I hear, is not great. But this is clearly trying to be a sequel to that movie.
And it's got our OG boy, Mike Flanagan, at the helm. So
Yep.
that really interests me. But I do feel as though whether it'll translate into the final film is another thing. But I felt like this trailer was trying so hard to make it known that this is The Shining, people. Make sure you know this is a sequel to The Shining. And it doesn't feel like, I guess because I know the knowledge of the fact that this is based off the book and it's also a sequel to the film, it doesn't feel like it's figured itself out here. It feels like I'm doing an adaptation of the Stephen King book and we're just chucking in some Stanley Kubrick bits of the trailer of the old Shining film. So we'll see how the end product turns out. I have enormous faith in Mike Flanagan. He's got amazing taste. I'm sure he'll be able to make it work.
He's adapted King before with Gerald's Game.
Amazing.
Which a lot of people considered unfilmable.
Really? I mean, he blew it out of the park there.
Yep.
So, I think it's going to be great. This trailer just seemed, to me.
I wasn't really bothered by any of that. My only real takeaway from it is, and I guess we haven't brought him up in a while, Mike Flanagan. He's kind of the patron saint of the podcast, I feel.
Yeah, he is.
He's a filmmaker that we all kind of really just discovered last year. In terms of actually realizing that this one guy directed all these really cool films.
Yeah.
So
The web, the red string. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's him
Come in
all
here.
along.
Yeah, people need to know. One photo in the center. And then, of course, he had Netflix's Haunting of Hill House, which appeared on our best of the year lists. Which
no,
is
it appeared on mine and George's.
well,
I don't think it actually made yours.
Overall.
We're
Yeah,
basically one entity.
because I stuck to the rules. My top 5 movies of the year were just movies.
I've never seen you so peeved.
Yeah, you were just like,
Because it was my number one piece of content last year. So, all that being said, I just have that much faith in Flanagan. So, bring it
Yeah.
on.
I think that for me is what's going to carry this across. I mean, I wasn't blown away by this trailer. I certainly didn't attack it with such vitriol as George.
it's just, things need to be said.
Several times. Anyways. All right, let's move on to Frozen 2.
Let
I don't
it
know
go.
I don't know that I've ever. I have said this on the podcast. I've never seen Frozen.
No, me neither. Yeah.
Have you?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I've heard the song.
For a who hasn't? For a, I guess something that still a word that you used earlier, for something that was in such the zeitgeist of the moment, that it seems kind of odd that I haven't seen it. But I feel like
you weren't really the target demographic.
No, I really wasn't.
Anyone who is probably like a 12-year-old girl now would want to blow their brains out from hearing that song literally a million times in their lives at this point. That movie was such a huge hit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's taken them this long to make a sequel. Disney is pretty good, Disney Animation, about not pumping out endless sequels to these things like they did in like the 90s with the straight-to-video ones. Because we only just got Wreck-It Ralph 2. That was a little while coming.
I mean, so this means very little to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same as you, Connor. I've got no attachment to the original.
I will say this: I enjoyed the music in the trailer. I thought it was really dramatic. It was weirdly dramatic. It didn't really suit what I thought Frozen was meant to be like. I felt like Frozen was going to be Frozen 2 was going to have big poppy songs type thing. This kind of seems as though it's going down a little bit more of the dramatic side, and maybe that's because they're assuming that their audience has grown up a little bit. They're not as into the kind of cutesy, sing along thing that they would have gone to the original Frozen for.
It looks like pretty epic fantasy.
Really. It's a bit weird in that sense.
Strange trailer though, in terms of it didn't really feel like it had a beginning, middle, and an end. It was just kind of like scene, end
there
trailer.
Is genuinely an art to making good trailers.
Oh, totally.
And there's nothing more unsettling than just seeing a trailer that is just slapped together. I find it really unsettling just watching these trailers. I'm like,
just all you've done, together, friend.
All you've done is just take a bunch of scenes and smushed them in front of me, and that to me does absolutely nothing.
I love a good smush.
All right. Well, third on our list, we've got Ad Astra.
Brad Pitt goes to space to save his dad.
Yeah. I am actually really interested in this. I like Brad Pitt. I think he's
rather handsome.
Rather handsome. Yes, that's what I was going to go for. I feel like because he's so famous, people sometimes don't really give. It's weird. I think people don't give him the credit that he deserves, even though he gets lots of credit. I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say.
He's taken for granted.
Yeah, that would probably be the best way.
On the other side of the spectrum is Brad Pitt's biggest hit is World War Z at 500 million.
Yeah,
he's not a blockbuster actor. He has chosen. He's worked a lot with David Fincher. He's gone for a lot more of those dramatic roles. So in some sense, he doesn't get enough credit, and in another sense, he's really shaped his career in a different way to a lot of other actors, which I respect a lot. In terms of Ad Astra, the thing that's really, really appealing to me about this is the production design of this. It makes it look like a NASA. Like it feels very real. It's like gravity, moon. It feels like this is actual space exploration. And then it's got all these sort of action sequences in with it that feel kind of, you wouldn't see that in an Apollo 11 or where you see this kind of look. So I'm really liking this sort of over-the-top Hollywood space spectacle with a lot more of a grounded, real take on space. And I think this could be a really interesting combination of those.
Yeah. I definitely got that kind of feeling of amalgamation. I was getting heavy vibes of Interstellar and Kubrick for 2001.
100%.
There's a particular scene that had like this kind of very distinctive red to it, and then I just kind of I felt like I was like watching 2001 just with the slow pan and the red. I love the comparison to Gravity as well because it fits so well. It feels like it's going to kind of be a bit of a roller coaster between the Interstellar / Kubrick to the Gravity style, which I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about how grounded it looks. I definitely was thinking Gravity on the way in. This is the first time I watched the trailer. I didn't realize how high concept it was going to be, which I find very interesting. I love how science fiction-y it is.
Yeah.
And also at the very beginning of the trailer, there's a photo of young Tommy Lee Jones, which just really stood out to me because I recognized him from the photo of young Tommy Lee Jones in The First Men in Black that I watched the other day.
It's the same one.
Really?
No, it's not the same photo, but it's just...
Right.
I've never seen him that young, except in those two instances.
I was so weirded out. Oh, and in Men in Black 3.
Oh yeah, of course, when they actually get young Tommy Lee Jones to show up.
Yeah.
They cloned him.
Yeah.
Put him in a time discombobulator.
We called him Josh Brolin.
Oh man, I actually cannot. This is definitely my favorite trailer from this week.
Mm.
Easy.
I cannot wait for this film.
We'll hold off on that call, George, because we got a couple more.
Yeah.
Oh,
Particularly, George, you're on fire with all the comments while we're watching trailers, by the way. Particularly around this next one, Pennyworth.
Penny.
Oh, I forgot about this one.
So this is a prequel to how Alfred Pennyworth, aka Bruce Wayne's butler from the Batman series, came to be, the origin story. How did he turn into a butler? Like, fuck off, man. Like, honestly, you can do Gotham. Like, you've made that work. But this, you haven't sold it to me on this trailer. You haven't sold me into the concept. I'm just trying to really figure out who thought this was a good idea.
Look, I think that... No, I don't think that. Actually.
God, it's like, I'm going to defend this.
I was going to what I was going to say is that there is the potential to make a good TV show or movie out of just about anything.
Yes, I was about to say the same thing. And when we say that, when something seems so ridiculously ill-advised that you can't think of any other defense.
Well, that's why I stopped myself. I was like,
anything's possible, kiddies.
But it is true. It is true. And I don't think this looks terrible.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of exactly what I was about to say.
Probably not going to watch it unless every review says this is the best superhero TV show ever.
This is the next Chernobyl Pennyworth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
I feel like I had all the wind taken out of my sails because you just said it was...
like, where, what, how, where, why, what the fuck?
If it's good, then it's good. But I do agree with you. I think that what they're obviously trying to do is leverage the existing IP to get people to sit down and watch this. And, I know that we've talked about this quite a bit with DC, how we love that they're just kind of pumping out content. It's, here, there. It doesn't have to all be curated into the one universe and all that. But this, to me, feels like they might be going a little bit far with that. I think that
where does this fit in?
Where does this fit in?
What audience is it for?
I at some point I want DC to stop and maybe
think about what they're doing.
Well, yeah, think about the quality rather than the quantity.
Somebody please think of the children.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I'd like it both ways. I'd like to have quality and quantity, but if I had to choose, I'd pick the quality aspect of it. I feel like this experimentation that DC is doing with just pumping out as much content in every direction as they possibly can, it just feels very kind of iffy to me.
It doesn't seem to be working if anyone asks Swamp Thing.
Well, yeah, exactly, right?
What you've watched a few seasons of Gotham, correct?
Yeah, like 1.5.
How was that? And are you excited at all for this one? As probably the best qualified person here.
Gotham was just so mind-bogglingly ridiculous and terrible and great that that's what made it watchable.
Okay.
Like, it was so strange, and it had every one of those crazy like prequel problems where someone who's one day going to be the Riddler would show up and hint towards that character.
Yeah,
and it's an entertaining watch.
But you gave up for some reason.
Yeah. It's hard. I watched the first season in pretty quick succession, and it's hard to keep it up with something like
I found
that.
The same thing with
so much of a soap opera.
We've talked about this a couple of times. Arrow, which was so ridiculously bad that it was entertaining for a while, but at some point you just kind of look at yourself and like, oh, I'm just watching a bad TV show. Like I'm just wasting time.
So I'm interested to hear how this pans out. I'm probably not going to watch it.
Next on Trailer Time, we've got The Boys.
Now, I think we've reviewed this trailer once every week for 3 years now. How long has this been coming?
I honestly don't know.
Carl Urban, man, like I say this every time. Please, get a new agent. You deserve so much more than this. I can't say I'm interested at all in this. I think last time I said this would work really well as a sketch, but as a continuous story, as an ongoing TV series, they're going to have to really impress me with something else because this trailer did not do it.
If there's something more to this than just an overly grotesque or violent TV show, then I think that would be pretty cool. What I hope they don't do is just simply rely on that gimmick
Totally.
to kind of get it across the line. And you often do find that TV shows will do that. Like if they come out and they're like, hey, we're the gritty TV show that's going to show superheroes beating the living shit out of each other. You're like, yeah, okay, cool.
I feel like this could have worked 10 years ago. It feels like The Losers or Smoking Aces or
Kick-Ass.
Like it doesn't, it feels old and it feels unimportant and
another situation. If the writing and the characters are good, I think this premise could be a lot of fun, but it does look worryingly like it's just going to be relying on how edgy it is.
Edgelords unite.
Yeah. All right. And our final trailer, which is not a movie trailer, but it is a Marvel trailer, so we should probably have a quick chat about it, is the Marvel's Avengers video game that was dropped at E3.
Video game.
This, I mean, just as a kind of, so I don't know, this is like every kid's dream that has grown up with the Avengers MCU universe at their fingertips. I mean,
I've been waiting for this for so long, man.
Who doesn't want to play as Iron Man? I mean, that's...
and I don't play a lot of video games. I've been hungry for this one.
It's so crazy that just how few superhero games really come out. There's the Arkham series. We got Spider-Man last year, which was amazing.
Yeah.
It feels like such a cash cow. Like they stopped making them after like the Thor tie-in game or something, because they made a couple. Sega made like an Iron Man movie tie-in.
No, for real.
There was an Incredible Hulk tie-in.
But
There was a Captain America one, which is actually not terrible.
Really?
Do they ever perform well? Those kind of like directly after the movie.
I'm
style?
sure in just with that IP, they would have to do well enough, but they just seemed obviously not blockbusters. They pulled the plug on doing that
Yeah.
for so long.
Back in the day, there used to be a lot more of like the movie's coming and here's the shitty game that there's only like 4 levels on.
You used to get some bangers in between. Like, I mean, I remember playing the Lord of the Rings game after each movie came out, and those were like on point.
The X-Men Origins Wolverine game is amazing.
Really?
Is it really?
Yeah, it is a brilliant, like brutal, bloody as fuck, just beat 'em up.
Cool.
Like those
Who
claws
would've
get
seen that
used
one
properly,
coming?
and your damage system is your body just like falls apart and like regenerates, and you can get blown up like all the way down to the metal skeleton. It's so
Sick.
cool.
And the Chamber of Secrets on GameCube, that was like used the
I
same.
played that.
Used the same mechanics as Zelda.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Maybe that was because I was a dumbass kid.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, I had a great time.
I think that's the prime demographic for those like really quick, cheap games that come out after the.
yeah.
Like it's just get it out there.
So that brings us to today. And from what I believe, Marvel is trying to set up a completely distinct video game universe
Yeah.
for all of their
This
characters
is
to
not
play
the
in.
MCU.
No, but they kind of want you to believe it is. My God, do they hang on the designs and likenesses of the MCU in the closest they can without getting sued?
Yeah.
Exactly. They're like they're just close enough.
Banner
but
is
not-
just from 2012 Avengers.
Yeah,
Like he just looks
Yeah.
like
I think
Ruffalo in that
they
movie.
did the most work with Steve Rogers. He feels a lot more bulky. What did you say? Like a gridiron player. Yeah, he has that feel. But yeah, they're eerily close. But you know why? You know they have to
Why
do it in
wouldn't
this
you?
way, and everyone's been complaining. Well, they don't look like the Avengers. Well, because they have to going to fork out $10 million to each one of those actors.
So yes, and so given that they've come up with something that's quite unsettling, and I really think it would have been better if they tried to differ themselves a bit more.
Yeah.
I think, but they've also said this is not fully put together and not fully rendered.
Unless they're going to like just completely change the lineup of characters, then I don't think they're going to solve that problem necessarily.
Thor's
but yes,
hair looks terrible.
They're too-
like
Yeah,
I know
really
I'm into
hair.
their hair,
yeah.
but it's just not up to par. It looks like a PS2, PS3 game.
Well, that's
No.
what I was. That is.
PS1 game.
PS2 game.
PS1 game.
Yeah, that is what I was going to say. This movie compared to, because I watched a lot of the trailers that came out of E3, and this to me felt, in terms of like a AAA style game, felt kind of subpar. Very excited for it in terms of it being an Avengers game, but very not excited for it in terms of just like straight gaming. Trailer.
When it gets into the gameplay component of it, it looks a lot more polished.
Which-
But when you're in the characters just
Well, it
talking
just
and the
looks like-
cinematic bit, that looks terrible.
It
man.
looks like cutscenes.
That's the thing. That's what I was about
And
to
not
say.
great
Like
ones.
when you get into the game scene, the gameplay part, it's kind of like, do you though? Like what we're seeing here, it's so ill-defined as to what this game actually is.
Yeah.
I think they just want everyone to believe, I guess, it's going to be like Spider-Man from last year, and maybe it is. But they have not described what this is going to be. They've said there's going to be a multiplayer component to it. I don't know like how online this game is, if it's just going to be a single-player adventure game if you want it to be.
At the moment, what it looks like is, at least from what I've seen, it looks kind of like I'm not sure what's the style of the game. It does, whatever is not open world. Like it looks like an old Halo game where you've got like you've basically got one quarter that you go down type thing. Whereas, Spider-Man was a huge success because it was an open world. This doesn't feel like you have that level of freedom.
Yeah, it
well,
feels
I
more
think
level based.
Sorry?
It's just so
It feels more level based.
Yeah,
So-
and I think that's a huge thing that people want. Like you want to be able to like go around New York flying around in the Iron Man suit.
Yeah, which I'm concerned that they've bitten off more than they can chew by just making 5-6 playable characters. Are they ever going to be able to create a video game world that really feels satisfactory with that many different mechanics, that many different characters? Like, how can you walk through the same place as Black Widow and the Hulk and have the same game be functional even at that
exactly
point?
right.
That's very true.
Yeah, like Spider-Man was so polished. That game was just really brilliant, and really had a beautiful world. That version of New York is the best one that's ever been put in a video game, and it really felt like being Spider-Man in there. I do like this developer. They've made the recent Tomb Raider games, which are very brilliant. But yeah, I hope they can pull this off. I really do, because I think it'll be a big deal if they can.
Like I said, as an Avengers fan, I'm excited. As a gaming fan, kind of whatever.
Also, casting Nolan North as Tony Stark, get so sick of hearing him in video games. Like he's Nathan Drake. He's already the most recognizable voice in video games. Didn't need to hear him again.
Yeah. But listen, I still really... I'm going to pick up this game on the Switch when it comes out. Nintendo Switch.
In 2024.
Yeah.
You can jump onto The Witcher now. That's now
The Witcher 3
Yeah, it's
from
coming out on-
2009.
That 300-hour game that George
Yeah.
would definitely like to play.
They're really detailed and like
You know what's
lot of
interesting
reading.
about me is that the only Zelda game that I've never completed is Breath of the Wild, and that's the one that's open world. All the old Zeldas were not linear as per se, but a lot more linear than Breath of the Wild. So I kind of like that more level-based system.
I mean, they're all open world, really, but sort of.
Not to that degree.
Question of the week. We've got a question here from our boy Joel Beharrie. Thank you so much, man.
Hey, Joel.
Here we go. Just looked on IMDb, and it looks like Aquaman 2 and the first episode of the new Star Wars saga are opening on the same weekend in December 2022. Aquaman is $1 billion property, so they can probably have some confidence behind them. Star Wars is Star Wars, but it's fair to say that it's copped some flack since Disney took over. Steak dinner on who changes their date?
Is this
Loving that
the
reference.
first person that is instigating a steak dinner?
Like a digital steak dinner. We'll have to deal in like steak emojis or something. I don't know.
Oh, I thought he was pitting us to like have a steak.
Possibly. I'm not sure, but I think it's a really interesting point. And Star Wars, who's going to move? Because I'm sure one of them's going to bump a week behind or ahead.
So this is essentially WB versus Disney, and in the pantheon of big swinging dicks in Hollywood, you don't get bigger than Disney. So in that sense, the safe money is probably on the Star Wars franchise. I mean, in terms of the franchise as well, Star Wars has the upper hand on that as well. In terms of, just even box office performance for specific kind of franchises or like specific kind of named movies. I mean, I think Star Wars is still performing better than Aquaman. I'd like to say.
So Force Awakens is, it's cracked 2 billion. Last Jedi and Aquaman are around the same area, 1.3 billion, and then Rogue One we're at about 1 billion, and then Solo we're at around 300-400 million.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty wide spectrum there. So it really depends on. There's a big part of this is how successful is the marketing campaign for Star Wars, and how much brand equity does Aquaman hold in 2022.
Yeah. So I think that what will determine this is not what has been, because I think that you can, argue all day long about the relative merits between them. But what will really make the difference are things like, how does Wonder Woman perform? Because that is inextricably linked to the DCEU as a whole.
I don't think that'll have a bearing on it.
I do, because
Aquaman overperformed so hard despite Justice League coming right before
it might just be because of that. It might just be because that was so bad that this kind of felt like a redemption. Like I genuinely think that
no, that was essentially the first Aquaman movie.
You can't say that Aquaman is just in a bubble, as though the
other. Didn't you say the movie?
Not in this one. The rest of the DCU, how they perform somehow doesn't affect Aquaman. So I don't know why you would think that.
I just think Aquaman really is kind of an anomaly. I don't think Wonder Woman had a huge effect on Aquaman's success. I think Jason Momoa's persona was a huge part of it, and just the marketing for that movie.
But as I said, it doesn't exist in a bubble, and I still think that, particularly with this sequel, that will depend on things that happen in that universe, around that universe. I don't see it not being affected by that. And by the same token, to what I was really getting at is that I think that also applies for Star Wars. So if Rise of Skywalker bombs hard, then I think that will put this series into a bit of jeopardy.
I don't know, because there'll be such distance. Like, let's say Rise of Skywalker does bomb, they have 3 years to then, hey, everybody, we got a new one coming, and we got new creators, and forget about JJ, forget about Rian Johnson. Here's the new era. It's really, for me, it comes down to how strong that marketing campaign is.
Yeah.
Because that will really determine whether or not, how the audience will be going into and perceiving it.
Yeah, the new Star Wars is kind of a fresh start, so that all kinds of rides on everything we don't know about that movie yet. Because this is the biggest gap we've had since Force Awakens in terms of Star Wars movies.
Yes.
That's huge for them at this point, and I think it'll be very rejuvenating for that franchise.
I think so as well.
Yeah, like it's not the gap between like the prequels and Force Awakens, but it will have an effect similar to that on a much smaller scale, I think.
And I suppose, when I say, at least in this context, about Wonder Woman and that affecting it, it'll be Wonder Woman and whatever else precedes that or is in between. But yeah, I refuse to believe that the rest of the universe has no bearing on how these will perform, or more importantly, who will back off, because that's, I guess, at the crux of the question.
So yeah, I completely agree. I guess just having to pick one, I would think Aquaman would move first.
I think so as well.
Just because I think the success of that movie surprised WB
Everyone.
even.
Yeah.
So.
And didn't they like, I would say part of the success of Aquaman was the fact that there was no Star Wars in December.
Definitely.
That was Solo should have been there, but they decided to push it to May, right after Last Jedi. Every other Star Wars had come out in December. Every year since 2015, we'd gotten a new Star Wars film. So it's interesting. They seem to be inextricably tied. I agree with you. I think even though all the aforementioned reasons, I do think that Star Wars does have the leverage. Disney is the big swinging dick, and Warner Brothers might be smart and say, let's adjust by a week. Let's get a week in early. I think they should go a week early.
Yeah.
And just try and shave off a few dollars from Star Wars and get some goodwill.
Well, we all agree on that one then. So if
this is a first,
if we're right, you owe us steaks, Joel.
Yeah. We'll see what he says. We'll see what we'll message him.
Get back to us.
We'll message him.
Yeah.
Well, there we go, guys. So that's the show, and now we're going to jump into a little bit of Sydney Film Festival nonsense.
Yeah. Stick around if you're interested.
Yep. Thanks to Sydney Film Festival for having us back this year. We had a really great time.
Yes.
It's for us, just as a general sort of statement, is we see so many pop culture, like high profile, big blockbusters, and it was really refreshing to see something off the beaten track, new filmmakers, and just something a little more atypical than what we generally see. And I found it very refreshing and kind of rejuvenated me.
Yeah, it was great to see stuff that we didn't know everything about going into.
And I mean, we tend to gravitate towards the horror films that come out at Sydney Film Festival. So I also like seeing good horror films up on the big screen because it's not something that you get, particularly if you're going to blockbusters. It's horror is kind of its own little kind of corner of cinema.
So the first film we saw was Daniel Isn't Real, which is a horror indie film about this kid, and he's got this imaginary friend, and that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Should we just specify? Are we going to talk any spoilers at all?
I don't think we should.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
these
fine. I'm
films
fine
are,
with
pre-release movies.
So I really, really wanted to like this film more than I did.
Okay.
I think you guys enjoyed it more than myself.
I enjoyed this a lot.
I don't know what it was. Maybe I don't know. It just didn't quite click with me.
I went into this movie with absolutely no expectations.
Yeah,
So
I had no
think
idea what it was about.
that really helps, particularly in the sense of like I also didn't expect anything in terms of quality. Especially when you just start it, it's some like kind of cheesy. It almost feels like 80s intro to the film, and so I kind of orientated myself in that terms. Like it's going to look 80s, it's going to feel 80s, and I feel like it kind of it felt better than what I expected it to be, just based off the first 5 minutes. So I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really quite intense, provocative, dark, funny examination of mental illness. It had some stuff that I've never seen anywhere else before. I definitely don't know if it stuck the landing, but I really think the journey was worth it.
I liked the way they dealt with the mental health aspect in kind of a way that was, is he schizophrenic or is there something else going on here? And I enjoyed that. That it kept me guessing.
That's always been one of the most fascinating things I've found with mental illness. I say, like, in the sense that, people that have hallucinations, for all intents and purposes, they are real. Like auditory hallucinations use the same part of the brain as when you speak to me. So that exploration that they went into, I thought was really cool. Just that kind of that. How do you tell what's real and what's not? And they played with some of the mechanics that I thought was really interesting. And I think it's worth even watching again because it feels like one of those films where you'd pick up things that you didn't originally pick up on, and they were things that a couple of times I was like, oh, is that like an error in filmmaking, or did they do that on purpose? Which I thought was really cool.
I think the only real review this movie needs is that it's from the same production company as last year's Mandy, starring Nick Cage. If you dug that one, definitely see this one.
And it's got Patrick Schwarzenegger in it.
Is he related to someone? Or?
Nope.
Pretty sure that's Clint Eastwood's kid.
Oh, right. Yep. My bad.
Yeah. Just make sure you're prepared for next week.
I'm sorry.
Fuck. All right. Next off the rank was High Life.
Yes, Robert Pattinson's High Life.
And we're in space and it's French and
it's very French.
I had to do a family thing for that. It's a real shame that I missed that one.
Connor didn't grace us with his presence.
You would have really not enjoyed this one.
I knew I was gonna. I knew that if I went to that one, and I did, I genuinely couldn't make it, but I didn't fight it too hard because after watching the trailer for that, I just knew what it was going to be, and it looked just like an effort and a half.
I tell you what, though, I love going to the State Theatre in Sydney. I love being in that giant room with it.
Don't justify
out.
the film by.
No, I will. I just have that, like, the experience, as you said, Connor, like the experience of seeing something in the cinema and what cinema you see it and how you watch it. it changes the way you're going to take in a film. And I just really dig that venue.
Yeah, I have a different angle on that than you. I find that place a little excruciating. Beautiful, absolutely stunning, but no, it's so cramped and just not built to be a movie theater. So
just the ornate design.
No,
it
totally,
just
but
feels like
what I'm saying is
I'm in history, you know.
Yeah.
And, we
All right.
in Australia, the architecture and whatnot is so modern. It's nice to get something that feels a little bit old.
No, completely agree. My point is the fact that I enjoyed this movie as much as I did, and I didn't love it, but I really didn't hate it, I think is very impressive because I was really not in a comfortable cinema.
No.
And that should have been more excruciating than it was because this is not a short movie.
So this one is a very, very interesting film. It actually was one of those films that when I was watching it, I kind of wasn't getting it. And the days afterwards, it stuck with me and I thought about it more and more.
Yeah, I was the same.
And I would almost like to go watch it again in a way because I feel like I would get another layer of appreciation for it. And it's one of those films where it sort of sets up the sandbox for you to come at it with whatever your life experience has been, what, you know, you take what you want from the film. It's not kind of laying it out. This person is this and this is an allegorical tale of that. It's like, no, you got to do a lot of work with this film to get some enjoyment out of it, I feel.
Yeah, and the sci-fi elements are very slight. It's almost more like a prison film, but when they were there, I really enjoyed them. What was there? There's some stuff dealing with like black holes and stuff. Some things you've seen before, some things you haven't. I really like that element of it.
Yeah, it felt very mysterious and sort of the greater unknown. And I also really liked the way they handled the science fiction and just the production design of it. It felt like a guy's garage that had been converted. And I kind of love that.
Yeah.
It just felt tangible, real, authentic. But this is definitely not for everyone.
No.
This is cerebral. It's challenging. It's not spoon feeding you.
Yep.
So enjoyable and different, most certainly. Third film we saw was The Wind, which is an indie horror film set in the Old West or thereabouts, wherein this couple lives in this remote area and a new resident turns up, another couple next door, and the story unfolds from there.
So I will say one of the things that I thought was really confusing but also very cool about this film is it's the way that it plays with the timeline. And it doesn't do it in a way that is explicit or is explained to the audience. It just kind of jumps around and you just try and kind of figure out, okay, is this something that's happening now? Is it happening, when, like, how's it all fit together?
Yeah, it tells a story in like 3 main timelines and gives you nothing but context clues to keep up.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love a movie that is initially a little obtuse and you have to kind of be like, all right, I got to watch this. And then it kind of falls into place as you go.
You can't just lazily, bop along with the film.
You can't sit there looking at your phone. You will be lost.
Yeah, I love that. It was surprising. I did not expect that. And I thought that was so strong. And especially a film, as you said, Connor, it's not laying it all out for you. It's not like 2 days earlier, in with the text at the bottom. It's, oh, that little detail. Oh, okay, this must have been, right. Okay, things are starting to fit together now. And I love that in a movie.
So aside from that, it was a very kind of classic horror story with some very decent scares in it.
I thought that the sound design and the way this was shot and the scares and the overall momentum of the film was really strong. I can't tell you. I think I enjoyed this a lot. I don't know. You guys enjoyed it, but I loved this film. I really, really loved it.
I love that it sounds like a competition. Be like, I think you guys, but I enjoyed it more. I need to make like that
guys
really
are here,
stressed.
If you say 11 out of 10, I'm going to say 12.
Yeah.
I say 13.
No, I
raise you, sir.
I really love this film, and so you have to really, really love it.
I really, really, really love it, Connor. So like,
I liked it.
But I find like it is always so easy to poke holes in horror films, and it I think a lot of directors try and find new and wacky ways to either scare you or just kind of make it feel relevant. And this felt like a really solid film. And that for me is kind of why I love it. It doesn't overstate itself. It doesn't, wear out its welcome. It's just a kind of a simple, beautiful, cool, well thought out film.
Yeah, it's a nice little rumination on isolation and paranoia.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't tell you how much I love this. Like way more than you, Connor.
So much more.
Just so
I
everyone
just need
knows.
to really stress that one point.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I thought that the one thing I really liked about it is how authentic it felt, and I think even with the face makeup on the lead, like she was very barefaced, and you don't often see that in Hollywood. Like everyone is like, even the guys, they're so perfect. Like skin is all, and I liked how real this felt, and it felt like they were out there in the middle of the nowhere filming this little horror film, and it was just fantastic. So this was one of my favorites from the festival for sure. Next off the rank was Parasite. Parasite, Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, which won the Palme d'Or at Cannes and
Won the Sydney Film Fest as well.
Certainly did.
I'm actually really annoyed that I missed this one.
This was a really great experience back in the State Theatre.
Yep.
And it was packed out.
Yes.
And
for 2,000 people.
This audience was invested. Like there was gasps, there was laughter. It was such a great experience purely on the crowd.
Straight from before the movie started, Bong Joon-ho showed up.
And it was like,
We
holy
didn't
shit.
expect, yeah. So that was very cool. And then the movie itself was such a interesting, surprising roller coaster. I had no idea where it was going. He directed Okja, which we've reviewed, which was another movie that was so like tonally all over the place, but in a masterful way that you kind of don't see in like mainstream Western cinema. Seeing him at it again like that was so good.
I can't tell you how refreshing it is to see a film that changes over the course of a film. Like this starts out as a comedy, turns into a sort of satirical take on society, and ends up as a horror film. Like, and everything in between. But normally it's like in Hollywood, it's like, no, this is a funny horror film. Stay in your lane. That scene's a little bit off. Cut it out. Like, what was so refreshing about this is how varied and different it was, and I also loved the fact that I didn't watch any trailers.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I've always been really. I've always thought that comedy and horror pair really well together. Because I've said I always mention this whenever those two are mentioned, because they both pair the idea of tension and release really well together. The joke, the scare, really similar in setup and all that. So I always thought that always complements each other.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it a horror comedy.
I wouldn't call it a horror at all.
But it gets horrific.
I would just say that it almost defies genre. It's very
I think
funny,
so as well.
And I just think it goes to places that are completely unexpected.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of looking at it. But really, guys, if you haven't seen anything, please don't read anything. Like the director of Sydney Film Festival came out on set before, and he's like, I saw this knowing nothing about it, and I had an amazing time. And that's exactly how I saw it, and that is my recommendation.
So don't listen to this retroactively.
Just don't, because it is one of the I'm really hyping this up, but this is one of the best cinema experiences I've ever had.
Nice.
I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this.
That is a bold claim.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing it again. It's going to be a very different watch on the second time through.
Yeah,
because the first time it's like it's pulling you along. You're like, where the fuck
when
is
you
this going?
say that? So I just wanted to clarify this though. Watching it, is it something that you would say that you have to watch in a cinema? Because when you say it's the most enjoyable cinema experience, that for me means that it's like a Mad Max or a Blade Runner 2049, something that there is something significant added by watching it in a cinema.
More from the communal aspect, not from the spectacle.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a spectacle, but it's beautifully shot. Like it looks great.
No, but it's not like there's some aspect to it that you have to.
I think it's more in knowing. It's more in the fact that I knew nothing going in, and where the film takes you. It's a fucking wild ride. So this definitely deserved to win, and was a really nice way to finish off the festival.
Cool.
And then you watched something else, Ben.
I also watched The Public, written and directed by Emilio Estevez. Not worth talking about. It was fine.
Oh boy, Charlie.
No, Emilio.
The other one.
Who's Emilio?
Emilio Estevez. It's his brother.
Oh, it's his brother. Okay.
Big-
What's
The one that
Charlie?
didn't
80s
change his
star.
name?
Okay, so what's Charlie Sheen's OG name?
Charlie Estevez, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, it's something else.
There we go.
Yeah. Same with his dad.
I get them all confused.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen. Who the fuck are they? So, guys, good festival, bad festival.
Great festival.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it more than last year, I think.
Mm.
I think we got a few more average films last year. So, good picks,
Yeah.
Benny.
Thank you.
You've done it again, friend.
Done it again.
The only one that I'm curious to see that we didn't get a chance to see is the Dead Don't Die. Is that what it's
Oh,
called?
yep.
The
Dead
Jim
Don't Die.
Jarmusch film, yeah.
Yeah, which I heard kind of lackluster reviews on, but still very keen to check that out just because of the stack cast they have in that.
Mm.
And what was the other one we were going to see? Damn.
Who can say?
What a flaccid way to end the podcast. I can't remember shit.
Got his mic.
Funny you
Yeah,
should say
cut
that,
it.
George.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Always a pleasure having you guys listen in. Please do keep following us on Facebook and Instagram, because last week we didn't release a show and we put out a blast on those. So definitely go follow us there, because we put up a lot of updates on those channels. Plus YouTube as well, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Man, we're all over the internet. It's great. And we'll be back next week. Toy Story's up right about now. So next episode's going to be weekly show. Cool.
Oh yeah, because Toy Story is this week, and
Yeah.
then
That's already out. So go check that out, guys. Tons of reviews there. It's a great channel. I mean, we have a great channel. Let's.
It's amazing.
did you just do a Trump moment? Like
Yeah,
we have the best
billions
channel.
and billions. All right, I'm gonna shut up now. See you next week, Connor.
Catch you, mate.
See you, Benji.
Bye, guys.